Okay, algebra students, today I'm going to give you the official steps to solve multi-step equations, and we're going to put that into a notebook page. So the notebook page is the entire presentation that I'm giving, and don't just not listen to it and make the page, if that makes sense. The notebook page will look like this. So you'll have a title, and I use like colored paper to cut out to do this in. I would like for you to do the same, make it nice and colorful. So you have steps to solving, then you've got 6 steps here. And the first step is clearing any fractions, clear any fractions, and I'll talk to you about that in a minute. The second step is to distribute, to remove any parentheses, that's what that says. Step 3, combine like terms. Step 4, move the variables to one side of the equation. And step 5, move the constants to the other side of the equation. And step 6, multiply or divide to isolate the variable. Let's take a look at these up close. Alright, the first step is clearing fractions. And this is an example over here, so I'd like you to have this written down on the side. Multiply everything by the denominator or a common denominator. That's what that says. Multiply everything by the denominator or a common denominator. Here's an example. If you have an equation 1/4 n plus 2 equals 8 minus 3/4 n, then the first step you can do is to clear the fraction or get rid of it. If you multiply everything by 4, every single thing by 4, then you end up getting this here. So what I did is I took 4, multiplied it times 1/4 n. The 4's cancel, and that's why you get the n. And then you do 4 times 2, which is 8. And that gives you n plus 8. And then on the right, you do 4 times the 8, which is 32, and then 4 times a negative 3/4. Again, the 4's cancel, and you just get a negative 3n. And then you'd follow the steps to solve, but I'm just showing you an example to clear the fraction. Step number 4, move the variables to one side of the equation. Step number 5, move the constants to the other side of the equation. And the last step would be to multiply or divide to isolate the variable. Alright, so let's look at... Alright, so now I'm going to give you an example of a problem that we'll work through. And here it is. We have 5 times 2x plus 6 on the left. And then on the right equals negative 4 times negative 5 minus 2x plus 3x. The first step that we have in our arsenal after we've cleared any fractions, this one doesn't have fractions, the first step is to do distributive property. Distributive property means we're going to get rid of the parentheses. So here you can see I multiply 5 times the 2x, I get 10x. I do 5 times 6 gives me 30. Then I take the negative 4, multiply it times negative 5, that gives me 20. And a negative 4 times a negative 2x gives me a positive 8x. And then I bring down the 3x. So this is the distributive property. The next step that you do, and you always do it in this order as long as there are parentheses and the equation qualifies. So the next step is to combine like terms. So combine like terms, the only terms that are alike that I found were the 8x and the 3x. Now when you're combining like terms, that means just on each side. There's no terms alike on the left, but on the right you've got an x and an x. So add those together to get your 11x, and then bring down your 20. So that was the second step. So we did distributive property here, we combine like terms here, and now we're going to get the variables on one side of the equation. So notice here I have a 10x and I have an 11x. I want to get the x's on one side, and the way you do that is you add or subtract. If I subtract the 10x from this side, then I can do the same thing on this side, And what I'm left with, see if it's there, it's on the next slide, so I'm going to show you. Alright, so when I added or subtracted the 10x from both sides, then this went away and I bring down the 30, then I have 20 minus 1x, or 20 plus 1x. The next step after that, so that was getting the variables all on one side, so notice there's a variable only on one side now. So now these are called constants, the numbers 30 and 20, so I want to get the constants on the other side. So in order to get this 20 on the other side, I'm going to subtract the 20 from this side, that goes away, then I subtract the 20 from the 30, and I end up getting my answer, which is x equals 10. So that's just one example. Again, we're going to practice this a lot, but I want this to be in your notebook. Alright, the last portion is for the last step where you multiply or divide to isolate the variable. Just put an example like this one there. So here's an example. If you have 5x equals 20, you divide both sides by the 5, divide that by 5, that cancels, and you get x is equal to 4. You should have a page that looks similar to this that has an example, and it has all of our steps that we're going to use to solve multi-step equations with variables on both sides. Thanks for watching, and I'll be checking on this. You do not have to do a whisk, but you do need to have this in your notebook.